All right. So we are going to kick off with, feel free to pop your questions in the chat and we will answer them along the way. We are going to start with one, just kind of what things are looking like right now. So many people probably who have submitted before know that we tend to get submissions at the very end. So what our chart looks like on the back end is a bunch of people in draft mode writing their submissions, and then they use the whole time and then kind of submit in the last 48 hours. So this is based on what we currently have. I do expect that this will change by the time the CFP closes, but this is where we are right now, and this is what we're in most need of now. So the first category is presentations submitted by folks who have technical expertise. And there's two kind of subcategories we're in need of there. One is submissions for an audience that is technical. So submissions from, engineers with the idea of presenting to engineers. And then the second category is submissions for non-technical audience by a technical, submitter. So someone who's presenting who can kind of bridge the gap between technical expertise and folks who are non-technical but wanting to learn more. So the first category. Second category is new trust and safety research. We always are in need of that. That's something that we're always on the search for. It could be folks who are doing research within trust and safety. It could be research that is relevant to the trust and safety community that's outside of the trust and safety community, anything like that. I will always reiterate this, and I'm sure this year people are sick of me saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you are a presenter who has submitted your talk to a lot of other uh, conferences and you're wanting to present to a TrustCon audience, really keep in mind the TrustCon audience. So what I mean by that is the trust and safety audience has people who are very familiar with a lot of different topics related to the trust and safety community. If you're used to kind of getting people acclimated to trust and safety issues, you'll want to this is your opportunity to go deeper and kind of skip those like 101 pieces and really go deep on the things that are most relevant to our audience. Charlotte, do you have anything to add to that?
I'll just add that every year we do get a lot of just incredible seeming submissions, but they're incredible for, as Maggie said, probably a different audience where it's like all these like these cool perspectives and these amazing people, and they want to present this report, but the report is like, why trust and safety is important, and it's like, listen, we got it, we agree, right? So,
Yeah.
we still want those voices at TrustCon. I think it's really a wonderful opportunity to interface with people who have a different profession than you, right? But you just have to be thinking when you do your submission, like, what is it that trust and safety professionals need to know?
Yeah. We were running a child safety track again this year, so we're on the hunt for great child safety submissions. I put age assurance here. We're on the hunt for any great child safety submissions. The reason I stuck age assurance here is that that is what I'm hearing a lot just from the community as top of mind for this year. And so there's a desire to hear about age assurance and what folks are doing and any advancements there and people who found success or have interesting takes on age assurance. That is sort of like where we've heard the most right now. Managing shifting regulatory landscape. So this is one that has been top of mind the last couple of years, but is definitely top of mind this year. And that is something that we're searching for. I've also heard this directly from the community as an area that people really want to hear about. And then the last one is new perspectives. And what I mean by new perspectives is panelists that we haven't heard from before is one way to incorporate new opinions, conversations that focus on depth, and then angles of trust and safety that we have not been as deeply explored. So, if you work for one of the apps that we don't frequently hear from, or you work in a space within trust and safety that's like, that's an interesting, part of the trust and safety world that might have something to add here. It's just people who have interesting opinions on trust and safety that we have not heard from before. So we're always on the hunt for that. That is what I've heard so far. Charlotte, do you have anything to add there?
I agree with all of these things.
Awesome. Okay. So we can talk a little bit about what makes panels successful, but I want to check in on our chat first.
We're doing fine. I'm
Great.
keeping an eye on
Okay,
the chat. You keep an eye on the slides.
perfect.
And
Okay, so one
I
of the
will
big
say at any time, if you have a question about what's on the slide, or if you have a question, you're like, "Are you going to get to this?" Like, put it in the Q&A, and we can, or in the chat, and we can figure it out.
So, what makes a panel successful? This is a question that we get a lot, and something that I think as you're fine-tuning your presentation, or sorry, your panels submissions, we have a lot of questions about this, and this is one that I think the program committee comments on a lot in the past, where people seem to have really, really great ideas, but we need more detail on what the panel is actually going to be like. We've also heard a lot of feedback from attendees on panels and really a desire for depth of conversation. So these are just some tips on as you're refining your panel submissions. Differing perspectives is a big one. So it's just not that compelling. And probably everybody's been to a panel like this. It's not that compelling to go to a panel where everyone is agreeing. And everyone has pretty much this similar take on a conversation. People are really wanting to hear differing perspectives. That doesn't always mean disagreement. It can mean they work for all, different types of roles or different companies. But it can also mean that they disagree, of course, respectfully. But I think differing perspectives is a big one. The purpose of having a panel is, people really want to go to a panel to understand a problem from a lot of different angles. And so that's sort of like where we see a lot of feedback. And we've given a lot of feedback in the past to authors. Like, this is great, but this is a great concept, but we really need different panelists on this panel to really round it out. Second thing is a clear indication that the questions invite nuance. So we don't, of course, usually there's like an intro question that's broad, right? Everyone needs sort of that intro of like, so what are your biggest challenges? Totally, that's not, that's fine. But if all your questions are like, so what are your, biggest challenges? And it invites very surface level answers. I think that can indicate that the panel is going to really stay on the surface. So instead, focus on specific questions that will invite panelists to get into the nuance of the topic. I think that's always a really helpful indicator to the committee that you've really thought through the panel and you're ready to have a good discussion. I do think if there's anything else I wanted to cover on panels. I think other than that, I mean, the description, your abstract is really your chance to make your strongest case about what makes this panel unique, and that's actually true of all submissions. So your opportunity to make things clear to the committee that you've really thought through the submission, and you really have, it's going to be a compelling conversation, or it's going to be a compelling presentation. Your abstract is your opportunity to do that. So just getting in as much detail there as possible will set you up for success.
That's also where you can use the community contribution field. So those of you who've gone through Exordo sort of to preview so far, when you get in there, you'll see we have space for you to provide the abstract. If you're a panel, proposing a panel, we ask you to provide like a list of draft questions. But then we do have this field called community contribution, where we're basically asking like, why is it important that the community hear from, you or this set of people about this topic? And that's also your opportunity to really talk to the program committee and say like, here's what is novel and original and compelling about this topic.
Great. So I've gotten some questions about what are community activities and a desire to submit ideas for them, but not sure like what they should be really, drafting, or people are wanting to kind of know, well, what are examples of community activities. So if you went to TrustCon last year, we had some community activities. We just didn't put them through the CFP. So community activities were like if you went to a lunch where there was like a topic and there's like a red teaming lunch, there was some focus, like there's a Pride at lunch. So if you went to one of those, that was a community activity. Community activities are opportunities to network with peers, and you can do kind of anything that you can come up with, any ideas. Your imagination is the limit. Some examples are a group walk. So if you would want to grab folks to go on, a morning walk or a walk at lunch or something, that would be a great community activity. A dedicated table onto a specific topic is a big one. And when we say dedicated to a specific topic, we don't mean a roundtable or a discussion. They're actually specifically not really roundtables. There are more opportunities for people in the community to meet other people who have, similar interests or are part of the same group. So we had, Pride at lunch last year. We had women at, and then we had some that were more focused, like the red teaming table. So if you had, I just talked to someone yesterday about potentially doing like a crisis management one. So, submit those. I think that's pretty lightweight submission, but we are putting them through the CFP this year to open it up to whoever has ideas. Last year, we were only able to organize these based on who we found and who we discovered had ideas. And I think there's a lot more of you out there. Other ideas would be like a passive activity. Alice did her Zine last year, so she set up a table and had people write down words of encouragement to the community. Another idea would be like if you wanted to do a passive activity, like everybody, adds to a puzzle or something like that. They can be kind of any opportunity for the community to engage with each other. Tips for community activities. Definitely think about what's realistic for attendees. So does an activity require them to skip lunch or change? I think last year we had some ideas for like, let's go on a run or something. It's possible people would be interested in that. I think anytime that we're asking people to, change their outfit midday or something, I don't know that that's going to be a super successful community activity. And people do need some time for lunch. So the community lunches are perfect because it combines both. But if we're doing an activity during lunch, you'll want to leave time and assume that people are going to need time to go back to their room and eat lunch and things like that. So pick something kind of lightweight. And then consider if it's best to have a friend host or lead it with you. So it's a lot to do these on your own, and picking somebody else to kind of lead with you will set you up for success. All right. And this just a reminder that community activities are TSBA events. So if they're accepted, they're official part of like TSBA programming rather than sponsorship. So that's a different set of criteria, and that's also available on our website. Okay. Next question I have had is what makes a successful roundtable? Roundtables are new to TrustCon this year, but we've used them at some summits in the past. So some folks have asked what makes a successful roundtable. First thing is to consider a narrow discussion rather than a broad discussion. So it's difficult to have meaningful conversation if we have really general topics. So rather than picking like all of child safety, for example, picking something specific, even within age assurance, or within a specific topic, picking a subcategory there to really pose a meaningful discussion. Same thing with panels, including examples of interesting example questions. Roundtables rely on interesting prompts for discussion. So providing the community with clear examples of what questions you plan to ask to really drive the discussion. Being clear about the target audience. So if there's certain levels, roles, skills, or types of companies or other categories, we aren't able to exclude people from roundtables, but it's helpful to really say, this is who my target audience is for this directly in the description or the community contribution, so that we can include that in the description and so that it's clear, who is most relevant and who would be most excited about this discussion. And then the last one I think is actually one of the more important ones, which is considering having a co-facilitator who has either complementary or different perspectives than you. We've had some really strong roundtables where the people leading the roundtable actually kind of disagreed with each other or had very different perspectives, and that can really help stoke discussion. So if just keeping the discussion moving, and also I think that's really good for the committee to see that you're thinking through how to really round out the discussion with different perspectives. So it's sort of a hybrid between similar to like a workshop, but there's no kind of end product. It's more discussion based. And then similar to panels, you'll want to think through how am I really inviting the most nuanced and interesting discussion. Okay, I'm going to pause there. Um, any questions? We're good so far? Cool.
The only remaining thing we have is just an example proposal to sort of show you in action what we mean. So if you did come to this session with questions, which I hope you did, because otherwise, I mean, I guess we can just hang out, but now's a great time to put those in the Q&A box. We can just skip into the example proposal because all of this is like, oh yeah, this makes sense. But often when you find yourself actually in the submission flow, you're it's sort of like, oh wait, what am I supposed to be doing here? So we have this like kinesthetic example for you. Maggie, if you would go to the next slide. Great. Okay. So here is an example of a type of proposal we might get for, this is for a presentation. So a 20-minute talk, 5 minutes of Q&A. This is a classic example of something that is really general and is not likely to be accepted at TrustCon. So you look at it, title, Gen AI, great potential, great peril. Yes, we agree. Both of those things can be true. This is fake, by the way. I wrote this, so we're not picking on anyone specific except for me. We say, oh, the potential threat posed by generative AI is an urgent question for trust and safety professionals. Yeah, totally. My presentation will explore emerging risks with various generative AI models. I will talk about several common threat vectors, along with what mitigation strategies are most effective. I will present specific case studies to illustrate these strategies to the audience. And then I say to the program committee in my community contribution, I say, well, generative AI is a big concern for trust and safety teams these days. This session will be an important learning experience for them. Now, all of these things are true, right? Like, yep, this could be an interesting presentation. The challenge that the program committee is going to have with this, there's a few challenges. One is that it is probably really general. There are lots of specifics that could be teased out in here. And so when you're at this high level, like Maggie was saying earlier, often that's only going to sort of scratch the surface of the topic. And what these professionals are here to do is really learn a lot more in detail about any one topic. There's also just not a lot of specifics in the proposal. I say, I'm going to talk about several common threat vectors. It would be really helpful for the program committee to know what threat vectors, right? Because we might have 2 or 3 other competing proposals that do have a lot more specifics. And if you're going to cover them, we want to know, right? You say, I'm going to present, I'm going to present specific case studies. Knowing what those case studies are is helpful. That could be in the abstract or that could be in the community contribution. It's especially important, I think, if you don't know what your case studies are yet, which I feel like with AI is one where it's like, oh, lots could happen between now and July. That's actually okay. You don't have to know all of the details. You just need to be upfront with the program committee about what pieces of this are locked in versus what pieces you're going to be figuring out a little closer to the time. So I then rewrote, Maggie, if you would mind going to the next slide, I rewrote this proposal. And what you'll immediately notice, I hope anyway, is how much more specific it is. So I now have this title, Embroidering the Truth, Dealing with AI-Generated Products and Marketplaces. You don't have to have a whiz-bang title. If you're self-conscious about your title, we can work on that with you. But
Someone should steal this one, frankly.
well, I'm so mad that I'm like, oh, because actually a problem I do encounter is you get on, a marketplace site and you want to buy an embroidery pattern and it's AI. So now they're embroidering the truth. It's great. It's a great title. Please, somebody steal this title. But now what you'll see is the proposal's like a lot more specific. It's about, yeah, Gen AI is a threat. And actually what we're going to talk about today is AI-driven marketplace fraud. And specifically what we're going to be talking about is AI-generated like fake books and AI-generated or AI-created product images, how you might think about like human-created versus AI-generated listings, different detection and mitigation strategies. The abstract, again, is sort of what will be publicly available to the audience. But here, if you go to the next slide, you'll notice I am now using the community contribution field way more effectively. This is again, your message to the program committee about like, what is this and why is it like so important to be accepted at TrustCon? So here I'm saying, all right, here's what the audience is going to take away. I'm going to use these two specific examples of AI, of embroidery patterns on Etsy and fake cookbook listings on Amazon. We are going to cover specifically techniques that human reviewers can use to identify AI products. We're going to talk about stricter seller onboarding protocols. We're going to talk about AI use disclosures, right? There's just a lot more specifics so that the program committee understands, is this the same as some other proposal I have? Oh, actually, these are different. These could be complementary. Great, let's bring them both in versus, oh, this one has way more specifics than that one over there. I'm going to go with this one. So
This is
that's
actually a really good point about, I mean, just linking outside of your proposal. I have had a couple of questions or seen people not realize that they can do that. So if you do have like examples of the work, or you want to link a paper, or you want to link, you're submitting a workshop and you want to show that you've facilitated many workshops in the past, this is a great opportunity to share, any supporting evidence for your proposal.
all right. So that is the end of our slides. But we're here for the rest of the hour just to answer any questions that folks may have about proposals in general, TrustCon in general, or even about their specific proposals. That's what this time is for, and we are here for you. So now we just get to sit here.
I'm actually going to stop recording because this is the part that we'll be sharing. So I will stop our recording so that we can chat in privately.